Thanks, dear viewers, for joining us on this edition of the news on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bablett Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the list of candidates for the upcoming municipal and legislative elections in the Republic of Cameroon will be published in the minutes or hours ahead. The election organizing body, Elections Cameroon, is expected to publish the list today. The deadline, however, is tomorrow, and the United Nations official says the recent wave of killings in the northwest and southwest regions of the country demonstrates or shows a failure of international diplomacy. The government of Cameroon and other parties involved in the Anglophone crisis. The United Nations official was speaking during the burial of a UN aid worker killed in the crisis. Those were top stories. Dear viewers, for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. After 15 days of what has been qualified as a marathon race by candidates for the upcoming municipal and legislative elections, or better still, aspirants who went rushing from one part of the country to the other, from one office, from one administration to the other, to compile the files. Today is the D-Day, and of course the list of candidates for the February 9, 2020 municipal and legislative elections will be known later today. The results, so the list is expected to be published by the election organizing body, Elections Cameroon, later today. And of course, it should be noted that December 10 is the deadline for the publication of the list of candidates for the upcoming elections, and this is according to section 126 of the Electoral Code of Cameroon, which indicates that within 60 days to the date of the poll, the electoral board shall draw up and publish the list of candidates. It shall notify the Constitutional Council of such list of candidates, and of course the candidates, after the publication of the list, will have 48 hours to appeal to the Constitutional Council after the publication of the list, as stated in section 129 of the Electoral Code of the Republic of Cameroon. And of course that simply means that the candidates will have until December 12 to appeal to the Constitutional Council if they find any irregularities in the list that is expected to be published later today by the election organizing body, Elections Cameroon. And of course, the deadline for the Constitutional Council to rule on the petitions filed is December 22nd, according to section 131, sub 1 of the Electoral Code of the Republic of Cameroon, and section 87 sub 1 of the Electoral Code states that the election campaign shall open on the 15th day preceding the election and close at midnight on the eve of the election day. That means campaigns will start January 25th and end at midnight February 8, 2020 campaigns, of course, for the municipal and legislative elections of the Republic of Cameroon. We shall keep you updated on this information as soon as the election organizing body in the Republic of Cameroon, Elections Cameroon, makes public the list of candidates for the February 9, 2020 twin elections in Cameroon. Now to the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. A United Nations official has said that the recent wave of killings within the context of the Anglophone crisis hitting the northwest and the southwest regions is an indication that international diplomacy, the government of Cameroon and all other parties involved in the crisis have failed in their duties. He was speaking during the burial of a UN aid worker who was recently killed in the northwest region. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
The crisis in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon has consistently metamorphosized since outbreak in 2016. And at this stage, when thousands have been killed, including United Nations aid workers, the United Nations is disappointed with international diplomacy, the governments of Cameroon and parties involved in the crisis.
This death of Pascal is a real failure failure in so many ways. A failure for people here, the government, and for some of the parties to the conflict to respect international humanitarian law. Humanitarians must have access. They must have free and fair access. They're not looking to hurt anybody. All they're looking to do is to help civilians in need and find ways until there is a solution to the crisis. And his death also represents a failure to find a solution to this crisis. A failure of politics, a failure of international diplomacy, and a failure of governance. And this needs to end, because otherwise we will have more Pascals every week, every day. And we're seeing this across the Anglophone region with hundreds and hundreds of houses, hundreds of villages destroyed and abandoned. The very fabric of civil society is being destroyed. And we really need this to end. We need this to end today.
While in Kambe, Donga Mountain Division of the Northwest region of Cameroon, to bury Pascal Ngwayi, a UN aid worker assassinated in Wat village. Mr. James Nuna, head of office for the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, insisted that the role of UN aid workers is non-partisan.
We're not trying to profess any political views. They're completely neutral, independent and impartial. Their only side is the side of civilians in need.
At the Christ the King Catholic Church in Kambe, Reverend Father Andrew vehemently condemned the killing of Pascal Ngwayi and many others in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, highlighting that no one has the right to take away the life of another man.
No human being in whatever form of war has the right to kill another directly. In a war situation, if you see an enemy, perceivable, clear enemy, what you do is you try to incapacitate the enemy.
A statement concorded by the senior United Nations official who said such killings are against human rights and constitute crimes against humanity. Pascal Ngwayi was not just a humanitarian aid field worker, but a Christian and a dedicated worker whose gap, according to Commentude, cannot be filled.
If Pascal didn't want to save humanity, he would have also left Ndonga Mantum, Nkambe, like a lot of other persons have done. But he stayed here. If Pascal did not want to save humanity, he would not have gone out to do work to collect information for the service of humanity. So what we should remember about Pascal is the fact that Pascal died saving humanity and was not given a chance to live. Because Pascal could talk and express himself clearly, and those who heard him, they understood him, but they did not give him a chance to live.
According to the United Nations organization, Pascal Ngwayi was in Wat village in Kambe Central Subdivision for data collection on the needs of displaced and people affected by the crisis in the area when he was kidnapped on November the 30th and later killed on December the 1st, 2019.
And government's plans to reconstruct villages destroyed in the context of the Anglophone crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, provoking divergent views, contradictory views from politicians in Cameroon, where those of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, CPDM political party, think that the reconstruction can take place hitch-free in the present context. Those of the opposition think it is impossible to reconstruct the destroyed villages without a restoration of peace and normalcy and, of course, stability in those two regions. They were speaking on Droit de Réponse on EQUINOXE television over the weekend. Take a listen.
Reconstructing the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon has been amongst the resolutions of the major national dialogue that held 2 months ago. This has like the special status to be granted Anglophone Cameroon, animated debate platforms on EQUINOXE television like Droit de Réponse.
Ces deux régions ont besoin d'être reconstruites et il faut
Ariel Nitedem, experts in public finance, holds these regions need to be reconstructed and the lion's share of the 2020 public investment budget directed to this.
Alors si on doit tout le temps
Just like the far north region, the northwest and southwest regions were declared economically damaged zones.
J'ai du mal à comprendre comment est-ce qu'on peut parler de reconstruction.
Barrister Desiree Sikati, allied to the Cameroon Renaissance Movement Party, is baffled how reconstruction will be possible with the ongoing war. Not even resolutions of the major national dialogue have been applied for peace and stability to return.
Qui tient de ce qu'il y a une crise sécuritaire.
To the ruling CPDM party, reconstruction and holding of the municipal and legislative elections will be effectively realized without any disturbance, though the fire exchange is on.
Après ce grand dialogue, il y a eu des recommandations, il n'y a pas eu de délai.
Barrister Acho Julius of the CPDM party trusts in the head of state Paul Biya, saying he is always prompt in actions.
Il est important, n'est-ce pas, que le volet économique, ce qu'on a prévu pour le dossier soit bien fait.
Ariel, the public finance expert, notes, apart from the special status yet to be genuinely accorded to the northwest and southwest regions, the government should also adopt a special budget for developmental projects in these zones to fully appease the populations.
Ce budget ne pourra pas financer, il faudra faire recours à notre source de financement spécial pour le statut particulier qu'on veut donner.
All panelists of the opposition regrets the fact that government remains unscrupulous to adhere to real peace-bringing initiatives for realization of all its plans. They believe most government officials exploit the Anglophone crisis for their political gains and selfish interests.
Several families in the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon are in agony, sorrow and despair following the arrest and detention of family heads. Many children have not seen their parents for a long period of time. Some of them were at the Boya Central Prison over the weekend to see their parents after a long period of time of separation. Derek Jato was there. His report.
These are children whose parents are inmates here, the Buya Central Prison. And at the other side of this prison fence divided are their parents. And today some will be meeting their parents for the first time.
Yes, it's an opportunity for them to see their parents once more. Some of them have never met their parents since they went to prison. So they are coming to meet them for the first time.
The number of inmates here at the Buya Central Prison has increased because of the too many cases linked to the current Anglophone crisis. And so too are the increasing number of children whose parents are caught in this web.
The number you are seeing here is just about 1/10 of them. Most of them are already in prison. Yes. And this reunites the family.
Egbe Divine commit the Buya Central Prison to God in prayers. His father is here, and his father is all he got now.
Father, God, may we to cover the Buya prison, the blood of Jesus. Father, pray, say what as the mountains around Jerusalem. Father, pray, Leo, angel come and surround this prison in the name of Jesus. In Jesus' name.
Amen. They are 5 in number, and their mother abandoned them when their father went to prison. Sources say. And Egbe Divine told us that he will tell his father when he meet him in prison that he had an accident last year.
Accident? Yes. Then what happened?
He was hit by a taxi in Tiko subdivision, and miraculously he survived, thanks to the assistance that came from Justice and Equity Prison Fellowship Cameroon.
I'm from Tiko Douala.
Its Chief Executive Officer, retired Administrator General of Prisons, Nana Abonomari, is the brain behind this initiative.
It happens that when a man comes into prison, the wife remains outside, she abandons the husband or vice versa, the children go their own way, but during a period like this we bring them together, so much so that when the man or the woman finally leaves the prison, he has a happy home waiting.
And today brought these children to wish their parents Merry Christmas, and vice versa.
There's nothing that gives me joy and pleasure like coming to commune with this family, with prisoners, ex-prisoners, crime victims, and their families during this time season. You know, we always bring them gifts, food, didactic material during this season.
The goal of Prison Fellowship Cameroon is to stable the minds of these children, for them to remain positive that one day their parents will come back home and join them as a family.
And many of the parents who are not detained are displaced by the Anglophone crisis. Many of them are now seeking refuge in Francophone parts of the country, while others have become refugees in neighboring Nigeria. They are in hundreds of thousands living in very difficult conditions, unable to put food on the table on daily basis, and of course send their children to school. And some of them were empowered with some aid recently in Chang, in the west region of the country. We have details with Immaculate Fogwe.
Gun battles, killings and kidnappings continue in the northwest and southwest region as a result of the persistent Anglophone crisis, which has led to the displacement of several persons, with many of them living in deplorable conditions. One of those areas harboring a great number of internally displaced persons is Chang in the west region of Cameroon. It is against this backdrop that a non-governmental organization called Environment and Rural Development Foundation offered some didactic materials to some school-going IDPs living in the town of Chang. They equally empowered some of the women with skills that will help them earn income.
Times that they hard, they don't get the material, they don't get money.
Things are really hard for most of the families. Some of them are unable to send their children to school. So, we have come to offer them assistance by empowering them with basic skills in soap production alongside other items. The money gotten from the sales of the items will be used to take care of their family.
Everything where the people can make soap.
These women were equally provided farm inputs like fertilizers alongside those that will be expected to help boost yields. Many other IDPs are still in need of humanitarian assistance across Cameroon. Their sole wish is that the Anglophone crisis comes to an end.
And the exploitation of land in the Tupa in the Mezam Division Northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon will henceforth be done within the ambits of a plan well defined and established by the council of that municipality. That plan was presented recently, and Stella was there. She compiled this report.
Whenever it rains heavily, this stretch of road, known as the Long Strait into Bambili in Tuba subdivision, floods. The inhabitants of other neighborhoods within and without the subdivision experience same. Experts have blamed these on poor town planning, leading to haphazard constructions with poor drainage systems. In a bid to make the subdivision, which is also host to the University of Bamenda with an ever-growing population, emerge before 2035, a land use plan has been presented in a workshop grouping stakeholders and heads of communities in the Tuba municipality.
This document is to give Tuba Council a tool to land use and land management in order to ensure harmonious land management and economic boost for this municipality. If you look at the road network in Tuba, they are better than most of the cities. They don't want to accuse any city, but they are far better. Because we start looking at it on the basis of what we are doing today.
Although the land use plan has been distributed into various quarters of the municipality, Mayor Martin Tanjong insists it is strictly for development purposes.
The key word there is a developmental
plan, not a community distribution plan. Put that one in your words. That the plan that the Park Council presented today is not a inter-village plan distribution. It's a vision, a tool to accelerate Tuba Council into modern development and distribution of development in the various spheres of this municipality.
Participants at the workshop have expressed the wish to see this plan a reality, but say facilities for sports and leisure should be given attention.
I would like to emphasize that if sports infrastructure could be developed, it will play a great role in the socio-economic development of Tuba Council. Because right now, even in the region, we don't have any sports infrastructure. We don't have the Bamenda Municipal Stadium has been still under construction for over 2 years now, and so many talents are dying and wasting in the domain of sports.
For the Tuba Council to realize this dream within the stipulated time frame, Mayor Martin Tanjong counts on the acceptance and support of the population, who are the prime beneficiaries.
The elites of the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, Gala Gerard, is the section president for Nkambe, section president of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) political party in Nkambe, Ndongamantum Division. Gala Gerard, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Babila. Thank you for having me again once more on this Equinox television.
Right, we're going to begin on the debate, with the debate on elections, the holding of the elections precisely in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and government's plans to reconstruct the destroyed villages. You heard the ideas expressed by some politicians of the CPDM and the opposition within the context of droit de réponse yesterday. While you people of the CPDM think that it is possible to reconstruct the villages, for the elections to hold hitch-free in this context, those of the opposition think that it is not possible. Peace and stability must be restored. What do you think about all of these, the situation on the ground and the project or the plans of government to reconstruct, to hold the elections February 9?
Well, thank you, Mr. Babila. You will know that the government taking one of our responsibilities is to make sure that the citizens live in a peaceful environment, an adequate environment, and considering the northwest and southwest where we have the crisis plaguing for quite some time now, the government is trying to take measures to make sure that some of the homes that were destroyed be reconstructed. And it was very normal for opposition parties to criticize government action, to say things that will not go in line with what the government is thinking, because that's why the opposition. There is no way an opposition militant or member will see with what the government is saying. But the government's duty is to make sure that she delivers to the population. But in this context where we have the crisis in the northwest and southwest, the government is trying to do her best, trying to see that the citizens work in collaboration with the government to make sure that those homes that were destroyed, that we've all been crying, are reconstructed, that the peace that we've been longing for comes back. That is why you should go to many communities now, like the Cardinal said, things are a bit different. People are now talking from one direction, and that's the direction of peace. That's why we want people to understand that, yeah, mistakes were made, and we acknowledge them from both sides. And if the government now is ready, as forgiving some of the separatists that caused a lot of atrocities, they equally have to forgive the government for the actions that they did that were not in line with what they should have done, and for us to come back together and make sure that peace reigns, for those homes to be reconstructed, for people to live freely, and for normal life to return, because it is not easy on the ground, and that is what the government is trying to do. It's now on the goodwill of people to understand that we need to put cards on the table and make sure that things are done for life to return to normalcy.
When you look at Nkambe today, where you are the CPDM section president, when you look at the different villages in the Ndongamantum division, and then when you extend across the northwest region, is it possible to reconstruct the houses, to vote during the February 9, 2020 municipal and legislative elections?
You cannot talk of reconstruction to create an enabling environment to vote for February, because we are barely 2 months to go for election. The government will start the reconstruction process and will take a long time. We are now asking the citizens to understand and bear with the government for the reconstruction to take place. So it's a continuous process that will go on for some time. You cannot start any feasible structure in December and expect it to go through in February for elections to take place. The government is giving hopes to the population, telling them that we are going to start the reconstruction, be it from January when the budget starts, and then move along towards the end, towards the year. And in the course of doing that, the elections can take place. So people should understand. It depends on the goodwill of the people. People should now understand that we should sit and try to fix our country. It's not only about trying to kill and kill. No, it's about sitting down together, looking at what will bring us together more than what can divide us, and that should come from the goodwill of all the citizens of the Northwest and Southwest. Because if we are on bad faith, they will continue languishing in it.
The goodwill of the people of the Northwest and the Southwest regions, what are they expected to do concretely in order to and for the environment to be conducive for these elections?
The head of state has called for those who are terrorizing the population to drop down their weapons. I can tell you that a military convoy can drive from Bamida to Nkambe without shooting, one bullet, except they get an attack from the secessionist fighters. Military drives from Bamida to Nkambe without shooting, except they are attacked. So you know where the attacks come from. And in the course of attack, if the military is retaliating and end up getting an innocent civilian by accident, they will see the military as kill an innocent civilian, but they will not say how it started. That is why we are calling on our brothers that we should stop this, because a separatist fighter will engage in an ambush, forgetting that there is an innocent civilian around him. That when the military want to attack, it will get to the innocent civilian. It's not that the military leaves his house on daily basis to go and kill civilians. No.
We have been hearing people like Cardinal Tomi, Barrister Kuijas Joseph, and many other persons talking about indiscriminate shooting by the military when they are moving along.
No, that's what I'm telling you. We should say things the way they are. We don't want it to happen, but this is what happens. Travel with the military sometime and see for yourself whether they will shoot a single bullet if they are not attacked. Meaning that in an area where the military is passing, if people are there that cannot report the activities of armed fighters, that means they are in complicity with them. You understand? That means they are in complicity with them. And a military is a normal human being. You don't expect to attack a military officer and want him to just stay put.
But the problem here is that if you report the activities of the armed fighters, you become a target. When you report what the military is doing, you become a target. So the people at the end of the day are caught in the middle.
That is why I'm saying that military being who they are, we understand that sometimes it becomes very difficult for the local people. It becomes very difficult. But there are still ways that can be done. Because at the end of the day, those who are instilling fear and torture on the people are the separatist fighters. The military only come in when they get attacked. So if you think that you are going to attack a military convoy, to raise an alarm towards the United Nations for them to know that they have been killing innocent civilians, they also judge what happened. They don't just take decisions like that. They don't just take decisions based on what you think that you come and say this is what happened. No, they look at the whole picture. So what I'm saying is that this will not lead us to anywhere.
And the population are paying
the population are paying the price. The population are paying the price.
They have not committed.
For crimes they have not committed, but for crimes that their brothers are committing. You understand? So I feel sorry for sometimes for the population, because some of them are innocent, some of them don't know what's happening, but they get entangled in all this. So my only wish is that those boys should understand that the fighting and targeting the only forces that are supposed to carry weapons are the military, and fighting and targeting them will not take us to anywhere. We had a very genuine fight from 2016 that all of us supported the Anglophone problem, which was very genuine. But the people have not taken the fight into armed robbery, because I call that armed robbery. What they're doing now is looking for money, like what the people in the diaspora are doing. The people at the level of the grassroots are doing the same thing, kidnapping the people at the level of villages and taking money. When the military come, they run away. So at the end of the day, who are you fighting? Because they say they want to fight and liberate the people from the military. But when the military come, they run away. And when the military goes away, they come and kidnap innocent civilians and take money from them. So at the end of the day, what are we doing? Do we have a focus? So it's high time they shun away. It's high time they turn their back towards the message that is coming from the diaspora, and let's come on the table and talk.
And listen to the head of state.
The head of state
and drop their guns.
Drop their guns.
And let's see what
the fruits from the national dialogue will do.
I listened to Cardinal Tomi in one of the statements he made during a press conference here in Douala, and he said we cannot imagine a military without guns, but we can imagine separatists without guns. But the military should have their guns in the barracks, not out of the barracks. But today we are seeing that the military is not in the barracks, but out of the barracks, and so the atmosphere becomes tense.
Yeah, that is. Let me tell you, for example, in Kambe, when I used to go to JHS Kambe, we were living with the military in Kambe for 10 years, 20 years. They were there. strolling. They were never attacking anybody. If the military leave their barracks now with conscience because there's something wrong, the military is not out to just kill. The military is to protect the citizens. They can only attack when something happens. That's why we are only calling on the boys to drop their weapons. It all starts from them. Because we don't want anybody to get killed. I tell you this time and again, I talk to my brothers every day. Please, let's drop our weapons. Let's get integrated into a data center and then start a new life and allow peace, give peace a chance.
Now, with regards to the February 9, 2020 municipal and legislative elections, and we are still expecting the list of candidates that will be published by Elections Cameroon later today. With regards to plans to reconstruct the destroyed villages, with regards to efforts to have a return to normalcy and peace and stability in those two regions, the Cardinal said that the situation is improving. But when we get reactions from opposition politicians, from the civil society, we think that the Cardinal may be making a mistake somewhere, or what the Cardinal is saying, according to some of the politicians, is simply not true. When we look at some of the recent incidents, a gun attack on a Cameco Airbus, the killing of a humanitarian worker, gun battles in Akwa, and so on and so forth. What's your take on the situation on the ground? You are permanently in contact with the people on the ground. You are always in Kambe and so on to see what is happening there. What is the picture, the real picture of on the ground?
You know, there's something that you have to understand. Like I said, the opposition is there to oppose the government. If the government bring out facts that things are getting back to normal, gradually, not actually, but gradually getting back to normal, the opposition will always oppose because they want to take power. They want to paint the government as much as black as possible. So the Cardinal said it.
Yes, about the situation on the ground.
That's what I'm saying. The Cardinal, remember that the very people who are criticizing the Cardinal today are the same people who were praising him yesterday when he was saying that the situation is worst in the north and southwest. But now when he appraised the situation and give her the facts that the situation is getting back to normal, they wouldn't like it. They only want him to say things that are that looks beneficial to them, that gives them some credit. But once he's objective and bring out the facts, they will not like it. But they are the very people who were congratulating him and saying positive things about him when he was stacked and telling the things the way they are. We have to understand that things are changing, not like they're normal, but they're changing. People are now reasoning in one direction, and the direction is the direction of peace because of what they've seen, because of what they've gone through. So if all of us are now reasoning to a direction of peace, it's normal for the Cardinal to say that things are getting back to normal, because at one point when you went to Bamenda, you will see divergent opinions. People with diverse opinions, they will say things not only in the direction of peace, things that you see inciting other youth to pick up arms. But that's not the case. People are now calling on the youth to sit down and talk so that we have peace. With that to have happened means that things are getting to normal. So if you don't analyze it from an angle with good faith, you will look at it as a lie from the Cardinal. But the person, like I said, calling it a lie and giving the Cardinal a bad name because he said the truth that things are getting back to normal, is the same person that praised him yesterday when the things were worse, and he said it that they were worse. At that time, maybe some other government people will say that why is the Cardinal saying this? So those are...
Is the situation improving in Kambe or across the two regions?
It's not only about Kambe, because sometimes when you used to try...
At first, we were used to, gun battles on vehicles, convoys, and so on. And to a lesser extent, a helicopter that was pulled down allegedly somewhere in the northwest region of the country. But of recent, it shifted away from that and took a step up.
But
a gun attack on a Cameco Airbus.
Mr. Babila, let me tell you something. There are situations, even in the far north, we have situations even worse than other areas in the northwest and southwest. And let me clarify you that there has never been a helicopter that has been taken down in the north. Allegedly, but there has never been a one that has taken. That's no more propaganda. But let me tell you that when we used to travel from Bamenda to Ngokitunja, you have attacks along the way, more than 5 places. But you travel now from Bamenda to Bui, you will not have any attack on the way, because some of the boys have started realizing that there's no need staying in the bushes. From that, you can equally say that things are getting back to normal, because some of them want to listen and see the fruits of the national dialogue. That's why I will talk and I will go back to the implementations of the recommendation from the National Dialogue, because some of them, from all the recommendations I made, realize that these things, if these are implemented, life can come back to normal or things may change. So some of them have now refrained from all the acts that they were doing and are now waiting for the implementation of the fruits from the National Dialogue. So I think it's normal.
The Cardinal said the people are expecting the content of the special statements and the implementation.
Myself, I'm expecting on to see the content of the special status. And like I said, the content should be such that it meets the aspiration of the people from Northwest and Southwest. And I know that the president, who knows the Anglophone problem more than any other person in this country, knows what exactly the Anglophone people are expecting. And I'm very optimistic that he will do exactly and give exactly what he will put in that content will be exactly what we expect for the people to meet the aspiration of people.
You're going to be running in the upcoming municipal elections. And you want to take over from somebody who has said, I'm not going to run, I'm not going to fight to maintain myself in parliament on the blood, on the corpses of people. Well, I'm talking about Honorable Awudumbaya of the Social Democratic Front.
Well, I will not go talking about, that's Honorable Awudumbaya is my father, first of all. It's somebody I respect so much. And sometimes we politicians, we say things that may not be real. If I was going to counteract and say things based on the seminar that he made, it would be like putting or talking about my father in public. That's somebody I respect so much. So I will hold my statement for that. I will not say anything, but I will let you know that he's one of the best or finest politicians we had in the Northwest that I respect so much. So you will not get any word from me contradicting what he said. But all I can say is that having been in parliament for 4 months, it's not given to everybody. You have to be a smart and good politician to have benefited the confidence of people for 4 mandates. I ran against him in 2013, and I respected him for having taken the seat,
the lead.
Yeah, and till today, I take advice from him as my father. So I respect him much for that, because you will not find many of them in the country or North and Southwest that have done what he did for his people. So
all right.
I think he's a great politician.
I indicated earlier that campaigns have not yet started. Campaigns are going to start in January. But let me ask you, what do you want to do for the people of Kambe if they were to listen to you?
If to do for the people of Kambe is like saying, how can I, but let me just say this. The people of Kambe are always with me. It's not because I have to go to parliament before doing something to them. I told you before that I eat, I sleep, and I work with them. What I have belongs to the people of my constituency. I must not be in parliament to do whatever thing they want me to do for them. I do things with them from my heart. I have an NGO. I assist the underprivileged. I send children to school. I preach for others to go to school. I want them to be better people tomorrow. You must not be in parliament before doing that. I have brothers who are not doing politics, but are assisting a lot. So you must not be a politician, or you must not want to go be in parliament before you do things for your community. So that's why you see that the community are with us, and we think that with other people understanding what is happening at the moment, the boys should lay down their weapons. Let's sit down, let's peace return, let our children go to school, and then let's see the implementation of the recommendation of National Dialogue.
All right, thanks so much, Shingala Gerard, CPDM Section President from Kambe in the Nongamantum Division of the Northwest Region. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, Mr. Babila.
And we are still expecting the publication of the list of candidates for the upcoming February 9, 2020 municipal and legislative elections in the Republic of Cameroon. The election organizing body, Elections Cameroon, has been working throughout the day, and the list is expected to be published later today. And after the publications, the candidates whose name will feature on the list will have 48 hours to appeal to the Constitutional Council after the publication of the list. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.